What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Harry the Horse BBQ, and today we're going to do a little experiment and we're going to test out my barbecue rub versus Meat Church barbecue rub. Come check it out.
Harry the Horse BBQ.
Now, with this experiment, I really wanted to try some Meat Church barbecue rubs. So I only bought one specific Meat Church rub, and you saw it in our bacon video. It's the Meat Church Holy Gospel rub. I liked it on the bacon and I really wanted to try it out on a more substantial barbecue item, something like ribs. If you've checked out our rib rub comparison video, I made a rub that was 2 parts coarse black pepper, 1 part kosher salt, and 1 part of a Native Texan Rub. And that Native Texan Rub is made by Savory Spice, and I like its sort of deep barbecue flavor that it has. So that was my favorite one in that video, and I've been using that on ribs and have been loving it. So I want to see how that rub stacks up against Meat Church. In my opinion, Meat Church is the GOAT of the barbecue rubs. Their shaker bottles are awesome. They have so many different varieties. I haven't checked them all out yet, but I'll continue to experiment with their rubs in the future to see how their rubs stack up against mine and how I can make my rubs a little bit better. With that being said, these ribs are from Porter Road and they were delicious at the end of the game, but come along and check out how I cook these ribs. Let's go. All right, y'all, I got these 2 racks of ribs from Porter Road, and these are pork spare ribs, and right out of the package, these ribs are ready to go. Essentially, I trimmed up a little bit of the fat and started scoring the membrane. You don't have to do any other trimming other than that. That is the pro of these spare ribs. I kind of like to trim mine just because you can tailor it to yourself. A con to these ribs was that they were a little bit thin for my liking. Either way, we're going down to season these ribs with a layer of Q glue, like I start with everything that I cook. And then we're gonna hit these with our Meat Church Holy Gospel rub. Not too heavy on the back, but this rub has a really nice red color. It's got some nice pepper in there. It made these ribs look really, really red throughout the cook, almost like a competition style rib, but they were looking really, really fantastic. I'm a big fan of this rub. Here we go on the top, going with a nice even application of the rub all the way across. Try not to waste any of that rub, but these ribs are looking fantastic after seasoning them. Nice and even application of that rub. You could see the red, you could see the specks of black from the pepper. Rack number 2 from Porter Road, a little bit beefier maybe. And I'm going down with my Harry the Horse barbecue rub that I like to use on ribs. I had a shaker bottle that had a certain amount of black pepper left over in it, so I tried to just match that by volume with salt, but I try to use about half the amount of salt. So this is a 2-to-1-to-1 ratio. 2 parts coarse black pepper, 1 part Diamond Crystal Kosher Salt, and 1 part of that Native Texan Rub that I was talking about earlier, made by Savory Spice. Trimming up these ribs, gonna save that fat and use that fat later on. I'll show you guys that. And I just wanted to square up this rack. It had a little bit of an end piece hanging on there, but I want this to be really squared up on either end. And we're gonna repeat the same exact process on this set of ribs. We're going to score the membrane, which I like to do because it helps kind of crisp it up at the end and easier to eat. Going down with our layer of Q glue on the back. Again, not a heavy application. And then what we're gonna do is hit it with this rub. And you gotta be a little bit careful with this rub because of the salt content. But I think this style of rub that I make is a really good Texas style rib rub. It's got the heavy black pepper, the salt to taste, and then I feel like that the Q glue, like I'm applying here, and the Native Texan Rub, which has got some cumin, some paprika, maybe some chili powder, things like that, helps give it that sort of reddish hue throughout the cook along with some of the smoke. As you can see here, the application really even back and forth over the ribs, but not too heavy. You can see looking really nice. This is how I like my ribs to look. You can see the pepper. It's got a little bit of color from the Q glue and the rub. It's looking really nice. Time to fire up the pit, and here we go. I'm going down with some Royal Oak Lump charcoal again. It's essentially all I can find around here, but at least it's natural. Lighting up a starter cube, throw our chimney over that, and we're ready to go. We toss that right in the firebox. I just wanted to get some heavy kind of smoke on these ribs to start. I knew the charcoal would kind of help aid in that. It would help the wood kind of smolder a little bit as opposed to burn super cleanly. We all know that the running trend of the dirty versus clean smoke is kind of out there. I started off with some junky logs. I'm going to be honest, I did not feel like cutting wood, any additional wood anyway. And I had some junkier pieces kind of left over, and I figured it'd just be kind of good to use those and get a fire started. Just trying to add a little extra heat to my coal bed here, get the flames going on the wood. But the junky wood, man, you could still use it. It's not a big deal. You can get your fire going with it. It provides some good smoky flavor at the start of a cook, so that's what I went with. I started using some less than desirable pieces of wood to start. Here you can see the smoke is rolling. We're going down with the Harry the Horse BBQ Rub ribs in the back of the cooker because they were a little bit thicker, and the Meat Church ribs are going closer to the door. You could see the differences in color right off the bat. The red looking rack is definitely the Meat Church Rub. Close this down for a couple of hours. And once you got your logs rolling, toss some of that fat on the fire. You do it with brisket, why not do it with pork fat? I thought it was killer. Wasn't a lot of fat, but still did a nice job. Your logs are rolling. We're rolling between 225 and 250 for most of the cook. You can see the smoke rolling out of here. Not super clean, not super dirty, but we want to put some good smoke flavor on those ribs to start. Once that's all set up, close your door for your firebox with your foot, and 2 hours later, you're ready to check on them. So 2 hours into this cook, these ribs are looking great, actually. I was very pleased, especially with how the Harry the Horse BBQ Rub ribs were looking. They look how I want ribs to look. They've got a little bit of a red color. They're getting a little barky from the rub. And the Meat Church ribs are looking really red and fantastic as well. No complaints there. They just don't have the texture that I like to see on the outside of the ribs. Here we go. We're going to flip these ribs over so we can sort of crisp up the membrane on the back, get a little smoke flavor on the outside, or on that back side. And we're going to let them roll like that for an hour. So here we are in hour 3 of the cook. We went 2 hours with the ribs on the cooker to start, 1 hour after they were flipped. And we're going to flip them back over. And we're going to give them a spritz down. And I'm going to let them rock again for about another hour because I want to start to see that pull back on the ribs. And I wasn't quite seeing that yet in hour 3. I'm just spritzing with some water, some apple cider vinegar, 50-50 mix. And after we let those ribs rock for about another hour, we're going to wrap them. Classic Guy Fieri mop sauce, the Carolina mop sauce. It's one of my favorite commercially made sauces. So I go down with some of that, a little bit of the Meat Church Rub, and then we're going to drop down our Meat Church ribs into this little mixture of spices and sauce, right into our heavy-duty aluminum foil, and we're going to hit them on the backside with a little more rub. We're going to wrap them up, and back onto the cooker they go. The same process for the Harry the Horse BBQ ribs. We're going down with the Guy Fieri mop sauce, a little bit of our homemade rub. We're going to throw these ribs down, and man, these were looking, in my opinion, fantastic. They were a lot redder in the sunlight than they are in camera, but I still think they're looking pretty fantastic. Hit them on the back end with a little bit more rub. You can see that pullback starting to happen. Wrap them up in our heavy-duty aluminum foil and back on the cooker, only for another hour. They finished up in another hour. Now, I'll be honest with y'all, I made these ribs for a little party. Shout out E for sending me this footage. I appreciate you. I kind of just cut these up, served them up, and we just ate. So there was no official taste test. I love making barbecue for other people. I generally don't make it for myself too often. This was for a little get-together, but The reviews were outstanding. You could see the cook on these ribs was pretty good. I would say a couple of them were a little overdone, depending on the thickness of the rack. But the couple of ribs that I ate, both were phenomenal. The smoke ring was there, the texture was there. You bite it and it came right off the bone. Nothing really fell off the bone completely. Unfortunately, I don't have a solid verdict for y'all. Try it out for yourself and let me know how you feel. I think my ribs came out a little darker and a little bit more of a well-rounded flavor, and the Meat Church ones were kind of just maybe something I'm not used to. But I don't have a solid verdict for y'all. But what y'all can do is try this for yourselves. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. I know you want to do it. I know you like spare ribs, so keep on going. Follow me on Instagram at Harry the Horse BBQ. I'd love to see what you guys are cooking. Drop a comment to let me know what Meat Church rub I should try next, or if you've got a rib rub that I should be trying on my ribs. Until then, y'all, I'll catch y'all on the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace out.